This is David Brown for Favorite Farm and Soil Enriching Technology. I just wanted to talk here for a little bit about a subject that I love, and I think that honestly and truly, if our forefathers had thought about it, they were probably doing this as well, and that's biodynamic farming. What exactly is biodynamic farming? Well, in order to do that, let's go over here to the website and let's check out what biodynamic farming is. And I'm over here on uh, Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is telling us that biodynamic farming is a method of organic farming originally developed by Rudolf Steiner that employs what proponents describe as a holistic understanding of agricultural processes. One of the first sustainable agricultural movements, it treats soil fertility, plant growth, and livestock care as ecologically interrelated tasks, emphasizing spiritual and mystical perspectives. Proponents of biodynamic agriculture, including Steiner, have characterized it as spiritual science as part of the larger anthro, anthros, my, can't even pronounce that word. Anthro, anyway, part of a larger anthroscopy movement. I believe that's how that's pronounced. Um, ah, my dog is over here having fun. Biodynamics have much in common with other organic approaches. It emphasizes the use of manures and components and excludes the use of artificial chemicals on soil, and I'm quoting, on plants, soil and plants. Methods used unique to the biodynamic approach include its treatment of animals, crops, and soil as a single system, and emphasis from its beginnings on local production and distribution systems. Its use of traditional and development of new local breeds and varieties, and the use of astrological sowing and planting calendars. Biodynamic agriculture uses various herbal and mineral additives for compost additives and field sprays. These are sometimes prepared by controversial methods such as burying ground quartz stuffed into the horn of a cow, which are said to harvest cosmic forces into the soil that are more akin to sympathetic magic than agronomy. As of 2011, techniques were used on 142,482 hectares in 47 countries. Germany accounts for 45% of the global total. The remainder average 1,750 hectares per county or country. Biodynamic methods of cultivating grapevines have been taken up by several notable vineyards. There are certification agencies for biodynamic products, most of which are members of the International Biodynamic Standards Group, Demeter International. No difference in beneficial outcomes have been scientifically established between certified biodynamic agricultural techniques and similar organic and integrated farming practices. Critics have characterized biodynamic agriculture as pseudoscience on the basis of lack of strong evidence for its efficacy, and skepticism about aspects criticized as being magical thinking. Well, I'm not into the mystical side of it. The spiritual side of it, I can understand. I can, I can, get into the spiritual side of it, but the mystical side, you want to see a Star Trek ship flying by about now, don't you? But I like the idea of biodynamic farming, even though I had trouble with one word, which is okay. Nobody's a professor, well, at least not in this house. And if you are, that's fine. Just don't try and correct me. You can help me pronunciate the word, that's fine. But, don't say, hey, you don't need to try such big words. But anyway, back to biodynamic farming. I really truly believe our forefathers were doing this by type of farming, and many were doing it and not knowing it as well because they didn't want to use harsh chemicals and so forth and so on. Um, but I don't know. I can't prove that. But I think the whole idea of biodynamic farming is a needful thing. One, because my personal opinion of biodynamic farming is not so much just soil only or whatever, but it's also taking into aspect the soil, the water, the air quality, and all of those things compounded together and working to improve the area. Now you're saying, well, how can you improve air quality? Lots of trees. Trees produce, they take in and then they produce out. They take in all the toxins and so forth in the air, and then they produce carbon and many other forms of which I will get into, but many other forms of beneficial, let's put it this way, beneficial things, items needed for the air quality as well as the survival of the insects and plant life around us as well. And I know a lot of people are going to come and go, okay, you don't know your science. I'm not trying to get into science. I'm not trying to be technical. This is just if you want to call it a professional farmer or a farmer who's been doing something for a long time, but wanting to keep it simple and not try to go over anyone's heads. I'm just trying to keep it at that level. But biodynamic farming to me is using things that you know are going to be beneficial, like compost teas, rock dust, biochar. I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions about biochar and about rock dust and about compost teas, and that's fine and dandy, Wendy. But the whole aspect of those things needs to be brought into a discussion or a thought process, as well as how's your water quality. If you're on well water, which most generally you will be or are, then how are you running it through a process to where some of those or most of the chemicals run out of it? I know if you run it through a great big distillation plant, for your cattle or for your crops or whatever, it would be time consuming, but you have activated charcoal, you have um, you know, that's just one of the ways. But you also have, you can run it through, if I'm not mistaken, they used to run it through limestone or some type of rocks years and years ago, like it does through the mountains. It cascades through the mountains and runs down, and pretty soon it's not totally pure, and free of toxins and so forth, but it's a whole lot cleaner, used to be anyway. It's a whole lot cleaner than our well water or even our tap water, fluoridated, chlorinized tap water. So I think biodynamic farming is a key element. I think we need to get back to it. I think we need to be organic. Period. Eliminate chemicals per se, because I believe if you get your plants healthy and your soil healthy and your water condition is correct, you won't have any need for control of cornworms or potato bugs or any of the others that are out there. You won't need to control them because there won't be any insects to pester, if you want to call it that, or bother your plants. I'm sure they'll be around, but they won't devour your plants. And I'm sure there are others are going to be going, that's not true, that's all false. And that's fine. I'm sure they'll probably say, well, what if caterpillars come along, or what if locusts or whatever eat up your crops? Well, there again in lies another task or a challenge to be learned on how to control even that. We can control aphids or things with ladybugs. You can control other potential dangerous insects with praying mantises, and you can pollinate your own crops with bumblebees, or you can use, I think it's, well, if you do it right, you can also use regular honeybees, but you have to give them a way to get in and out of the greenhouse, or, if you have an area that's enclosed with a canopy or so forth. So, again, all in all, a lot of people do different things differently. So, lasagna gardening, straw bale gardening, I mean, just all kinds of things. We can regenerate the soil in so many ways and bring it back to its natural state, without having to go to a costly expense of using herbicides and pesticides, and it's just not needful. And farmers now are farming thousands of acres, hundreds of thousands of acres, like in Australia, using 2 John Deere tractors. They're farming 24 hours a day, from planting season to harvest season. So, you're doing some huge labor-intensive work, and those tractors can't break down, and you can't break down, and your harvest goes. Your seeds go in, and you got to maintain, you got to plow, cultivate, weed, feed. I mean, that would be a round-the-clock job. I think it's beneficial that we go back to locally produced foods. I really do. It should be that way instead of trucking in. And I understand you're going to say, well, what about tropical fruits? What about the things that we can't get? Well, I believe they can be grown here, but you have to put them in a greenhouse type condition, and you'll have to do things to change it. I know people look at me funny, but right now we've already got blood oranges growing, we've got pineapples, we've got avocados, we have trying to think what else I have growing out there, but black sapotes, papayas. They're not fully produced enough to where they can produce, but they are growing, they are established, and right here in West Virginia. And I'm doing all of these so far, excuse me, within the house, using just basically a sand soil mixture and heat, and that's it. So it can be done. I think anything can be done if you really want it bad enough to happen. But I think we need to go back to locally sustainable, locally grown produce. And if we had to sell it at individual farmers markets like they used to do, where you'd stop in at one farm and they would have tomatoes and cabbage and lettuce and corn, fine by me. Or do barter and trade. Hey, Joe, I've got 10 tons of carrots and I need 10 tons of onions. I mean, what's it going to hurt? They're locally grown. You've got Spanish onions, or I need Utah celery. You know what I mean? So, and the other thing is we need to save our seeds. I know that's a faux pas, a big no-no within the farming kingdom or world, because the government wants you to cut the crop asunder and send it all the way to the producer or to whoever it's got to go to first and on its way down the line. But I think it's essential that you take 10% of your crop. I really do. I know that sounds like tithing, and everybody's going, is this guy Christian? Yes, most definitely. And I'm not hating on anybody. If you're atheist or whatever, hey, that's your choice. But I do believe that we could take 10% of our crops, even 1%, and let them go to seed. I really do. So instead of taking your corn and cutting them down and making ensilage or silage, or taking all the corn and sending it off to the local co-op or the feed or the grain mills or wherever you first go to with all of your produce, I believe that you could take 10% of that, let it go to seed. I understand, tomatoes and so forth, you have to manually manipulate the seeds to come out, but there again, 10% of the crop. And if you're not growing hybrids or GMOs, they'll reproduce the following year. So 10% of your crop, and then I know you're probably saying as a farmer or whoever's watching, it's like, great, now we got to hire an extra crew just to cut down the seeds. Not really. Or take care of the seeds. Not really. You can use the same group that's doing the picking or the harvesting, and you can set a certain percentage of the crew over there or whatever. It's just simple mathematics. It can be worked out if you really want it done, but I think 10% of the crop really needs to be saved and kept on the farm for seed for the next following year. And I see that as good logical sense, because from the standpoint of replanting, it saves you a bundle. It gives you payment or payments whatever seed is going for these days in those quantities. I don't even buy them in those quantities, no sir. Um, but uh, but if you use them in those quantities, you've got 10% that you could plant, and you can restart with your tomatoes, and you can restart your celery, you can restart your lettuce, you can restart carrots, you can restart eggplant, whatever it is that you're growing or producing. Onions will reseed themselves, parsley, oregano, all the herbs will reseed themselves, flowers will reseed themselves, or produce their own seeds, I should say. So we have no excuse for any type, and I believe that ties in with biodynamic farming, using conservative, regenerative practices that allow us as farmers, whether we're small or huge, to be able to go back on the land that we've been given to a task to provide for, not just ourselves, but for families around the world. This wonderful item called produce, which helps them benefit in their cooking, in their survival, in their health, and their everyday lives. I really think that's important. I think compost tea, rock dust, I think biochar, um, I think straw bale gardening is a great idea for biodynamic. Um, Raised beds, I see that as a great avenue. But I think we need to start small. If you own your own home or you have land there, you can grow your own food. And even if you live in an apartment, I'll say this over and over again, you'll hear me on every video on here, you can grow something somewhere at any time, in any place, wherever you live, be it an apartment, be it a building, be it whatever it may be. You can grow tomatoes, you can grow watermelons, you can grow. It just all depends upon you, the person, the individual. I mean, when I first tried to grow avocados, everybody was saying, you need to grow avocados in order to start them. You gotta get you a glass with water, and you gotta get some toothpicks, and you gotta harvest the seed out of the avocado, and then once you get the avocado seed out, then you need to wash it, and then you need to put the 3 or 4 toothpicks into the avocado, and you need to set it inside the water, and then you need to put it in a warm windowsill, and once you get it in a warm windowsill, in just a matter of a few days, it will begin to crack and sprout, and you'll see a root form at the bottom, and then once that root forms at the bottom, then you'll begin to see a stem come out of the top, and yada yada yada. It worked for a little bit, but I didn't get the same results that everyone else was getting. Whether I did it wrong or not, it just didn't work, and I didn't try to fight with it. So I had to find a different way. So I got a pot, got some sand, put a liner in the bottom of it to keep the sand from running out when you add it to water, and then put water in it, put the avocado seed in it, put it near a windowsill, and waited and prayed. And guess what? In a few weeks, the seed sprouted, it grew, and I have more avocado seeds that have sprouted today than any of the other tropical or warm climate fruit that have started that way. So, but needless to say, some need more heat and some need less. But it can be done. I can't stress that enough. But biodynamic farming is the way to go. And I know people are saying, but you're going to be hurting a lot of people in those plants or those places that create um, such chemicals as Roundup. But my thing of it is this, right? If the companies are making that amount of money on those chemicals, why can't they take the knowledge that they currently have and get rid of Roundup, just one of the products that they're making? I'm sure they make others. But get rid of Roundup altogether and use the same containers that haven't been used, of course, brand new containers with a different label, make them totally 100% out of organic products that are not synthetic or harmful or will harm the planet or harm people or harm the water. It sounds so simple, And it is so simple. All you got to do is start with one product line and begin to move it. And I know for a fact that people will buy it, you know. And once you get farmers to understand how important it is, and farmers are not stupid. Farmers are an important piece, an important integrity, an important part of our relationship with food. Uh, where do you think our food comes from? Dairy, uh, celery, onions, cauliflower, carrots, beets. There isn't anything today that isn't grown by someone somewhere within the United States or another part of the world, and it is shipped in and brought to us here for our enjoyment, for our health, for so we can eat and cook. You know, a lot of the things people don't like. That's fine. That gives me more to eat. Hallelujah. Um, but I think it's so important. I think biodynamic farming is right on. It's right on. I don't buy into the mystical principles. I don't. You know, there's certain. You know, it's just like food. Everybody takes their own particular likes and dislikes, and they put the likes in one pot, and the dislikes they leave alone. And that's how I feel about certain things about biodynamic farming. I can change it. I call mine all-encompassing biodynamic farming in a sense because I'm looking at water, the air, and the soil, and I'm looking at how I can manage all three within my area. I may not be able to take care of everything else, but how can I manage mine, and how can I make sure that the crops that I'm growing are 100%? Now, they don't have to be certified by any government organization or any person, but how can they get to the point where I not only feel comfortable eating them, but I'm 100% stuck on growing them? And that's the whole point. If I believe in what I'm doing, then nothing else really matters. And I think that's where the sway comes in, because if someone is 100% comfortable with growing conventionally, and then you throw something at them like biodynamic farming, they're like, yeah, they're going to run, you know, or even mildly organic. And people are switching. Guaranteed, people are coming around the idea of organic farming and so forth, and they're understanding. But there is a big conglomerate of money lenders and money folk out there that's their job, folks, to make sure that people continue to use these products. And all you got to do is just say, no, I'm sorry, I really don't want to use it. You know, it goes against all my beliefs, all my religious or whatever beliefs you have. It goes against everything that I stand for, everything that I was brought into this world upon, you know. It goes against every principle I've ever, moral or any other principle. How could you possibly use it? Because in a sense, you're giving a mass murderous or a mass murdering weapon uh, to be used on the populace, and over time, you know, it injures and endangers thousands upon millions upon hundreds of millions of people just because of that one product. Well, that's my take on it. You know, if you have anything else to say, I'll listen, but please make it G-rated. Please, by all means, make it G-rated. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a humble farmer. I don't go around quantisizing or getting out the algebra tables and doing periodic tables and going, hey, it's going to take me 450 bushels of this, and I'll come out. Nah, you got to use some things, but you know, I don't have to get so technical that I get so caught up that I'm so clouded in my mind that I can't function, you know what I mean, as an individual and be able to think outside the box, because that's what I like to do. I like to use common sense more than those other things, and common sense tells me that these things that I'm talking about, that I believe in, that I'm using and doing and want to be a part of more and more daily, is for me. It may not, rock dust, biochar, and all those things may not, lasagna gardening may not be for you. But find your niche. Find your niche in the organic kingdom, in the biodynamic organic kingdom. Not only save yourselves, but save another person and help save. Yes, I know people like save the planet, but in a sense you are. You're keeping your part of the world clean, not only for a better environment and a healthier and better people, but you're bringing about a change, one person, one life at a time. And it starts with you. It starts with you, and that's where I make my plea. Farmers, if you're listening to this, or cowboys, or dairymen, or whoever you might be that's listening to this, don't come across and say, okay, he's not at my level. That's fine. I may not be at your level of knowing what differences is, and calculations and periodic tables and all of this jazz and jazz. That's fine. But what I do is on the same level, on the same plane that you do. I'm bringing change about for one person, one life. It starts with me, and enabling it to go to the next person. I want to make sure that what I'm presenting to the next person is clean, healthy, and sustainable, not only in them, but right where I'm growing at. I want to make sure it's sustainable. Sustainable how? That I know that if something that I give to another person, if they eat it, those very seeds can be taken from that fruit or that vegetable or that herb or that flower and replanted and regrown without any consequences, or without it killing itself off, or without turning into another species that I didn't plant. And that's where it lies. I really have a strong passion about that. I have a strong desire for that, and I want to increase more and more. So anybody that's out there, that's listening, I do thank you for listening. And that's just my take on it. I love the whole organic biodynamic idea, and I think it can be taken in pieces for the person and incorporated into a whole, that it will work for the person, not conventionally, but organically in every area. And it's so wonderful that all of these things are coming out. Not sure about the new titles and so forth, but thank God they're coming out, and it's helping people to, in a sense, be delivered and be free, because they're learning, and as you're learning, then the next person learns and learns and learns, and it's an all education process. So, hey, I'm David Brown for Favorite Farmer and Soil Enriching Technology. Thanks for joining me once again. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and please keep it G-rated, as I said, and be kind as well. So thanks very much, and until the next video, hey, take care, everybody, and keep on being organic.